Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson, it is great to see your beautiful face. It's been a while. We both went on vacation at the same time, so we got some extended time off. I'm excited to be back. Yeah, we got some basketball we're going to talk about, a little NBA offseason, preview the Olympics and all that stuff, but Tyson, I got to say this. We're about to start the grind period here. Like, we're going to go preview in the football, and we're not going to be taking days off.
No, and that's the way it should be. That's when we're having fun. It's the best time of the year is the off season, and then it's kind of like you build the car, and then during the during the actual season, we're seeing if it can run. Like, oh, how close were we in college football this year? Were we right? Were we wrong? And speaking of the NFL, rest in peace, Monty Kiffin. That just came across the timeline. Absolute legend of the game there. So I had to give a little shout. But yeah, it's good to be back. Hope everyone had a safe, happy, healthy 4th of July weekend or holiday, I guess middle of the week this year. But hope everybody's got all their digits and is here ready to listen to us blabber.
Yeah, and if you got all your digits, then you can smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, because like Tyson alluded to, like I just said, like we're going to be pumping out tons of content here in the latter part of summer, heading into college football season. Like we got our previews to do. If you haven't been on board, then we're going to be jumping all over previewing the Power 4 conferences, NFL divisions. Like we're going to have you covered. But we're going to put a bow here on what's been going on in the NBA, because as we talked about this Boston Celtics winning the NBA Finals, we said, hey, stay tuned because the NBA offseason is going to come. And that's where you got your draft. Although this one was bad, so Tyson, I didn't really touch on it. But you have teams trying to get better to see if you can take down the Boston Celtics. And we had a couple moves. It wasn't a great free agency class. We had some trades. And I think a couple teams got better on the surface. And, the first one that we got to touch on, Tyson, I got to say, I'm happy about it, is that Paul George went to the 76ers. He left the Los Angeles Clippers, signed a 4-year max contract with the 76ers. He's going to be their wing guy, hopefully another bucket getter. And this was really the big marquee move of the offseason.
Yeah, and the money was the money, and everyone's freaking out about, oh, you can't be paying Paul George that much when he's old. And then the $76 billion deal gets announced yesterday, and it's like, oh, maybe this is going to end up looking a little Mike Conley-esque by the time that we get to the end of this thing. He's better than Tobias Harris by, like, whatever degree you want to go to, especially in the playoffs. I know that, like me specifically, I crap on Paul George as much as anybody in the world. He's a certified, like, he'll go get you a bucket. And he guards, and that's a big deal. And how he's going to play this contract out, we'll see. But I can promise you, he's not finishing a NBA elimination game in the playoffs with how many points, Brad? I forget.
Zero.
How many shots, Brad? I forget.
That would be one shot, Tyson.
Yeah. And when's the last time Paul George took one shot?
Probably when he got hurt, But even then, he didn't get hurt at the beginning of the game.
No, I was thinking like an early night at a bar when he had to get out of there.
Yeah, sitting at the bar, one shot and go. You're out. I like this move for the Sixers. It was something they had to do. They needed to add wing depth. They needed to add a legit wing player. I mean, Tobias Harris just wasn't cutting it. Everybody knew, he was going to be on the way out. They had a max slot that they could give, and I think they honestly landed the best option on the market. Now, when I was on vacation, I was over at the Jersey Shore. A lot of my family, being from South Jersey, they're Sixers fans. So we were like, Paul George probably – can they go get somebody else? Would you rather do like a Larry Markkinen and a Brandon Ingram type of deal instead of just the Paul George? I think this is the best option. It's a guy who on the best night can be your number 2. I mean, if Embiid's not there, which that's the question mark always with the Sixers, he's a much better number 2 alongside Maxey than Tobias Harris would be. And on any given night, he can be your best player. And you just didn't have that in the previous iterations of the Sixers team. So it's a lot of money. It's a guy in Paul George who hasn't stepped up to the big moments since the Indiana Pacers years. And even then you could argue, what did he really do? But he's a guy with pedigree. He's a guy who can make shots. He's a guy who stretches the floor and is going to be able to defend at some level on the wing. So I think this was a great move for the Sixers.
It extends the window just a little bit, right? Because You can go all the way back to when they're chasing as much upside as they can, trying to hit home runs. They go get Jimmy Butler. That doesn't work. They go get James Harden. That doesn't work. And now it's time for Paul George to slide in here as the next one. Do I think it's going to work, Brad? Stay tuned to the NBA season. But early thoughts for me are probably not. I think Paul George is the guy at this point, or really always has been the guy that a team goes and gets because he seems like he should take you to the next level. And it just kind of stays where it was, or gets a little better, but not quite good enough. Now, in 2 years, if this doesn't work, can we finally have an Embiid conversation, or are we just not allowed to talk about it?
Well, I think a lot of people in Philadelphia are starting to have that conversation, and I'm there too. It just here's my thing. He's playing in the Olympics. It's like, dude, can you not be a little self-aware about what's been going on with your career? And I understand it's a special thing and you want to play and all that stuff, and you have an opportunity to win a gold medal. Sure. I get it. You know, you signed a contract, you signed a commitment to the 76ers, and a lot of it has been a lot of talk and not a lot of walk. So we'll see what happens. You add another guy to it. And I agree, Tyson, if it doesn't at least get to the conference finals, my God, I can't believe we have to say that.
It has
especially
to get to
in the East.
Finals. That's disgusting.
Yeah, there's going to be some conversations that need and will be had.
And you figure Milwaukee's going to be better next year. So this is a move to at least try to maintain themselves at the top of the pack instead of like trotting back towards the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyson, a team who made a move to try to better themselves, speaking of taking the next step, the New Orleans Pelicans made a splash. He wanted to get Dejounte Murray. Now, he was a hot name when he was with the Spurs. He flamed out with the Atlanta Hawks. Is that much as the player? Is it much as the situation? We'll see here in New Orleans, because it's not like he's going to a stable environment. I mean, my God, the New Orleans Pelicans are a soap opera of their own. But this is clearly a move that they wanted to add more talent. They wanted to get a primary ball handler, like the whole CJ McCollum, you're going to be the primary. It kind of triggered into Brandon Ingram, triggered into Zion. Like that completely fell apart. So they went out and traded him a pretty big haul, I think, for the Hawks to get back. A 2025 first from the Lakers, 2027 first from either the Bucks or the Pelicans, which is a top 4 protected. Dyson Daniels, who we liked coming out a little bit, athlete, just didn't really have a run of play with the Pelicans. Sent out Larry Nance Jr., Cody Zeller, and EJ Liddell. So a good little haul for the Hawks, nothing game-changing, but the Pelicans get back to Dejounte Murray. Tyson, what do you think about this deal for both sides, and do you think it's going to work for either?
Well, I think for Atlanta, it's kind of they had to do something, and this was the most logical something. We thought it was interesting when this move was made to bring Dejounte Murray to the Hawks. It kind of felt like trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice, right? They make the Eastern Conference Finals run, and then it's like, oh, we're good enough to do this again. Let's go out and add another star. Didn't really fit. Obviously they just picked number 1 in the draft for a reason. This isn't exactly the most stable franchise. Dejounte Murray has to guard. That's when he was in San Antonio, and you go back to his days at Washington, it was like, this dude is going to get after you, and he's going to dominate the ball on offense, and he's going to get you a bucket when he needs to. But the scoring was like almost secondary kind of to what he can bring, with the ancillary stuff, especially defense. He didn't guard anybody last year. He didn't guard anybody the year before that, and he barely guarded anybody his last year in San Antonio. He's on Twitter saying, they were telling me to not waste my energy on defense because they need me on the offensive end. And maybe that's true. And if that's true, then New Orleans home run. This is because this is still a guy that, was it 3 firsts and some change a couple years ago in this trade. He's still a guy who's a premier player when everything's going right. So I like it for New Orleans. I just am a little bit concerned that maybe he has always been this guy and we just thought he was somebody else. And they're going to be left kind of holding the bag here, and Atlanta was smart enough to get out.
I'm curious to see how this works. The Pelicans lost Jonas Valanciunas. They don't really have a true center. Do they want to go small ball? But if that's the case, you have to rely on Zion Williamson. And do you want to play him at the 5? You have rebounding wings, Brandon Ingram, unless they trade him. I think that's been a whole conversation around the Pelicans as well. But if he's there, you have a good rebounding wing in Ingram, a good rebounding guard in Dejounte Murray, then Zion Williamson. Where's the size come from? Everybody seems to be getting bigger, right? You have these stretch 5s. It's kind of the evolution, right? The centers got played out. Well, all of a sudden, these centers can shoot 3s, and you need those centers in this game because everybody's getting bigger. I'm curious to see how this all works out. On the surface, though, I like it. You get a primary ball handler, guy who can actually initiate the offense. If he defends, that's your head of the snake, and everything can kind of funnel down from there. But like you said, there are concerns if he's still that player, because if he's not, I mean, the Pelicans are going to be another disappointing team, especially in the West.
Yeah, and we're not here to talk about anybody's maturity, but when those are the stories that are coming out about you, and like consistently come out, then it kind of becomes like a little bit of a red flag. And we don't know these guys, so maybe it's all crap. But yeah, he's worth about 1/5 of Mikal Bridges is what I gathered from that trade.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into other notable moves. I mean, you said it.
Let's start there.
We got to. I mean, the Knicks. Is it officially the Villanova Knicks? Is it the New York Villanova, the New York Wildcats? I mean, like, what is this thing?
This is a brain dead New York Knicks. I mean, they had picks to burn. They obviously made everybody on their roster happy. This is a move. This is a team that's on the rise. They go out and get a good player. Again, maybe a player that everybody was maybe a little higher on than necessary, and he can score the ball. That's not necessarily the way that Mikal Bridges wants to play, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I think that Hartenstein versus Mikal Bridges, like you weigh those moves out if you're the New York Knicks, and they chose Mikal Bridges, and Isaiah Hartenstein goes to Oklahoma City, and that's something that's going to be interesting to watch, because kind of a common theme, I guess, so far this episode is some of these guys don't play, and like if Julius Randle's not playing, then what is this basketball team? And that's kind of the concern, because you just emptied the cupboard, so to speak, and they still have moves they can make and things they can do with the assets that they have, but you not wasted, but you used a lot of them to go out and get Mikal Bridges. I love Mikal Bridges. Do I think that he's worth what they gave up for him? I don't know.
Well, let's run through it. So it's an unprotected first in 2025, unprotected first in 2027, unprotected first in 2029, unprotected first in 2031. Okay. Unprotected pick swap in 2028. Top 4 protected 2025 first-round pick via the Bucks. So that's 2 first-round picks for the Nets coming next season, then the second-round pick in 2025. I mean, that's a haul. Not to mention they traded up Bojan Bogdanovic. Good shooter, a little shaky. Shake Milton, Mamadi Diakite. So 3 players, tons of picks. Not going to be game changers for the Nets. It's the picks that they want. But first-round picks aren't like NFL picks. It's just a stockpile. Can you trade those for future assets? Can you actually maybe get a good player? Who knows? But the Nets received some stuff back for a rebuild that they're clearly in. But I agree with you for the Knicks. I mean, forget Julius Randle. Mitchell Robinson, that guy's been snake bitten by injuries his entire career. What happens if he goes down? Then Julius Randle's got to play the 5. I get you're long on the wings, and we're kind of talking about the same thing with the Pelicans. Where's the size? I mean, the East now is huge. Just look at the teams out there. Like Jared Allen with Cleveland, obviously Embiid if he's available. The Celtics are massive. The Orlando Magic are huge too. I mean, if they take the next step, the Bucks, I mean, Knicks could be hurting if they don't have size, and maybe they trade Randle as a part of this in the reigning offseason, go get somebody with some length, but in height. But man, right now it's talk about pushing your chips all in.
I know, and I'm curious to see what this does to Josh Hart. I know they're all buddies, and I think Josh Hart is a really good basketball player. We're going to talk a little bit about players like Josh Hart, I think, later in this episode. But yeah, I'm curious. Like, if you put him, if he's coming off the bench, he's not necessarily an instant offense kind of guy. And then who is going to be that in your second unit? If he starts, then like you said, you're going to be really little. Yeah, we know he's a really good rebounder, but it's one of the best college basketball teams of all time. So if we're going to run it back, go get Chris Jenkins. That's what I say.
Yeah, it might as well. Okay, let's do some quick hitters here, and then we'll kind of touch on whatever you want to touch on, Tyson. So DeMar DeRozan leaves Chicago, goes to the Sacramento Kings. They in turn ship out Harrison Barnes to the Spurs in a little 3-team deal. I thought that was interesting. Blazers made a kind of a weird one. Not too notable, but kind of signals where they're at. Denny Avdia, I forget how to pronounce that. Trade with the Wizards. Malcolm Brogdon goes to the Wizards, so that was kind of strange. The Lakers get back LeBron. Oh, here's what I was looking for. The Magic adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. The Mavericks adding Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Not a lot of movement like we said, but there's some notable names left. I think it helps him for sure. I mean, he's a better shooter than Tim Hardaway Jr. at this point.
Yeah, that's for sure, and he's a better winner. I just the whole thing with it is going to be interesting. I think Clay's got a couple more years. They always, we heard for 10 years this is a guy who's going to play till he's 50. Look at his game, and all of a sudden it was overnight. So it's never very easy to diagnose whether this contract is going to be worth it. But this is a team that was just in the NBA Finals, and most of the role players, the guys who weren't Luka Doncic, essentially, no disrespect to Kyrie Irving, but it's true, shot them out of the series. And so now you go get a guy that shot his team back into multiple NBA finals, not just series, but big moments, right? So I like it as well. Brad, I don't know what else you have on that list, but what did you think about Oklahoma City going out and getting Alex Caruso?
Oh, I thought it was a great move when you consider they just gave up Giddey. He wasn't fitting there. And you got a better version of the player. I mean, they were hoping that Giddey would develop a jump shot. That just never came. So he was really reduced to being a passer and a rebounder. All right, well, you don't really need that. Go get an energy guy. Go get Caruso. And they got one. I think they got a better version. I mean, they fleeced the Bulls. It's just another example. The Bulls front office is a mess. Their organization is a mess, and we see it year after year. It's a joke.
At least they have the White Sox.
Yeah, at least they have the White Sox. Hey, the Cubs have won 5 in a row. I thought this was interesting and notable. Donovan Mitchell agreed on 3-year extension with the Cavs. He was the hot name, right? The Knicks are going to get him. Knicks get everybody. Lakers are going to go out and get him. They get everybody. But he decides to stay with Cleveland. And that could have been a real chip that came off the board for a team, like the Sixers. If the Clippers want to replace him, replace the departing Paul George, would that have been an option? But he decides to stay in Cleveland. It looks like they're going to run it back with that team who has had success. They fired JB Bickerstaff. They think it's going to be a new head coach coming in that can fix things.
I mean, if they're not 30 wins before they lose 20 games, like, does this not feel a little Blake Griffin-y to you?
Oh, a little bit, sure.
That's like, well, as soon as I saw the deal, I was like, I'll be very curious to see if he's on the team in a year. And that's going to hold that stance for a while, because the 3-year deal kind of locks them now into you can do more things as far as trading him to make salaries match and make rosters, work in the NBA. To me, that's what this kind of signaled, although we loved watching Cleveland last year, and we think a lot of those players are going to get better. So you can see from one end, like, this is a we want to win move. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, this is Blake Griffin flashbacks.
That's interesting. The other thing, too, Darius Garland's been rumored on the block. Jarrett Allen could be on the move. I mean, it seems like they're settled. But, the Cavs, there's not been a lot of leaks in their new regime. So I think there could be something that comes kind of crazily. And we're like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. So that's something to keep an eye on. Any other moves, notable ones that you saw, Tyson? We should get into the most improved.
I mean, I'm sure there's tons that we're missing, but that's the kind of, there's a million players in the NBA, right? And so when they swap teams, like, and we're both on vacation, stuff flies under the radar. So if we missed whoever your favorite team signed and you're mad at us, I guess JJ Redick's the new head coach of the Lakers. We didn't talk about that, but just yell at us in the comments and let us know who we missed. But what do you think about the JJ stuff? You're Mr. Duke.
I mean, it's just I think the Lakers are a clown show. I've been saying it for 4 years. It's a circus. Now, here's the thing. If they would have just silently gone out and hired JJ Redick, okay, there you go. But they turned it into a Hollywood script like they always do. It's the Lakers. It's pomp and circumstances. We think he's the next Pat Riley. Why would you say that? Now, there's expectations on him to be Pat Riley.
Yeah.
Just say, we like him. He's bright. We want to go in a different direction. It's his basketball mind. Okay, sweet. You know why? Because it hasn't worked out with the 2 other guys that you hired. Well, except for Frank Vogel when he actually won them a championship. But
yeah, that's so long ago.
Oh my God. 4 years ago. I mean, it's dog years in the NBA, and especially for that franchise. I mean, it's such a joke. But whatever. We'll see if it works. I don't know if it's a long-term play. I mean, I know he signed a long-term contract. LeBron signed for 2 more years. It's just they gave Bronny James fucking $4.4 million as a second-round pick. I mean, you just look at the previous 55th overall draft picks are not even sniffing that, and this kid gets $4.4 million. It's unbelievable, but it's just a circus. The Lakers are a circus.
They should have. I mean, if the rumors or what they were going to offer Dan Hurley were true, and he declined it, then we would have like a conversation about, well, they just got passed over. But they jerked around Dan Hurley and offered him half of what they leaked to the media. And then they go out and say, we think that this is going to be the next Pat Riley. Well, then why didn't you pick him first?
Right.
Why was he wasn't the first option? Whatever. It's not going to work. JJ Redick is going to be he's a brilliant basketball guy, but this is a suicide mission.
It really is. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. They got to get younger, man. I mean, it's insane. Do we really think Anthony Davis is going to play as many games as he did last year?
He's going to play more games in the Olympics than he plays next year.
I mean, imagine that guy goes through a full season healthily, like he pretty much did with the Lakers. They're going to put another Olympics on him. Like, there's no chance, dude. They might miss the playoffs. If I can bet that right now, I'm going to look into it. It's going to be a mess, but we'll see what happens with the Lakers. I think for most improved, Tyson, I'm going to be a homer here, and I'll move it along quickly because we talked about George. But besides Paul George, I think Daryl Morey's done a fantastic job. I mean, you talk about the upgrades that they needed to make and what they have made. Andre Drummond, backup center. I mean, he was good for the Sixers in that role before. Signs a 2-year deal, come on board. You extend Tyrese Maxey on a mega max 5-year extension, perfect. You get Kelly Oubre back. You get Kyle Lowry back, which people weren't expecting, but it's a backup. It's a veteran. It's somebody who's tough that the Sixers have needed. You go and get Eric Gordon, shooter, space the floor, veteran, and you get Caleb Martin. He took less money with the Sixers. I mean, I've never seen something like that. Instead of going and staying in South Beach for more money, no state tax, he goes to the freaking Philadelphia 76ers. Tyson, what's happening here? It's just unbelievable.
He doesn't want to do the heat workouts anymore. He was like, the offseason is almost up. I'm not doing that one more time. Yeah, I think Philly is, and it's not a homer pick. They had a fantastic offseason. A little bit sad that no more Paul Reed, right? Like that's
no, I'm
interesting.
Happy.
You're happy about that?
You're
happy to add Eric Gordon and sad to lose Paul Reed?
Oh, I'm throwing a parade that Paul Reed's out of here. I can't watch that guy play basketball in a Sixers uniform.
And who was? It was one more. Was it Melton?
Drummond.
Okay.
Melton was gone a while ago. Or they traded him this offseason, I should say.
There it is. Okay. For me, the most improved team, I think the Oklahoma City Thunder. I kind of briefly touched on it. They were one of the only teams in the league who didn't need to go out and do NBA offseason things, right? It wasn't a let's go chase a superstar, which they could have tried to do. It wasn't a let's make a splash move in free agency, which they could have tried to do. They go out and they get Alex Caruso, who you mentioned fits the offense or fits the entire team better and is going. You mentioned the head of the snake earlier when we were talking about Dejounte Murray. Well, now they have a guy too that can pair with Lou Dort if they need to, and then it's like go ahead and we played 2-3 zone. We got two guys up top that are after everybody, and then Hartenstein I think fits perfectly with what they want to do. And on top of all of this, they still have so many mid-sized contracts, Brad, and so many picks that if they want to go out now and add a star, right? If it's the middle of the NBA season right before the trade deadline and Kevin Durant's unhappy for the 12th time in the last 6 years, you can bring him home. And this is a team that was a couple more playoff games as a group away from figuring this thing out. They ran into a bad matchup for them in Dallas. So they went out and got bigger. They got stronger. Mm-hmm. And that's what you need to do. This is now a team that I think if we're going head to head, there's very few teams in the NBA that you would say, like you'd say, give me Boston. You'd probably say, give me Denver. And for me, the list kind of stops there.
Okay. That's interesting. You think they're the third best team? And you're in that tier, right? Because you got the Timberwolves and
I think they're the clear head of that tier. Like if you're going tier one, we're all hoping that we get a Boston Denver matchup in the next year NBA Finals. That's not an unpopular take. But then after that, I'm taking Oklahoma City over Minnesota, over Dallas, over Milwaukee, over Philadelphia.
Philly? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they won the most games in the West last year, and you can't take that away from their young group. I mean, they're gelled well. You add another player, that's not a bad take at all. Tyson, I'm curious to see this one. Not necessarily most improved, but I want to talk about it. The Spurs, they trade for Harrison Barnes and they signed Chris Paul. Veteran guys, is it going to take them to the next level? No, I don't think so. But what it does is it brings maturity. It brings an asshole in Chris Paul. And let's be honest, like if you don't have to like playing with him. The dude's a winner. I mean, he hasn't won the big one. His teams win basketball games. Like I know people always like, well, he's never won a championship. It's hard to win championships. And this guy's teams win. And that's what the Spurs need. They have lost so many games. Like we're just like, oh, the tanking thing and Wemby's fun. You're going to have to start winning games here soon if you want the Wemby thing to start working. And you bring in Harrison Barnes, who, again, he's kind of was kind of made fun of with the Warriors, right? They replaced him with Kevin Durant, but he won a championship there. He was part of the turnaround for the Kings. Can he be the turnaround for the Spurs? That's what they're looking to do. And then they got their young pieces. I'm curious to see how that plays out for him.
Yeah, and I think you're right in saying that neither one of those guys is necessarily a ceiling raiser at this point. But that's not who they're looking for to raise the ceiling. They just want second-year Victor Wembanyama to take the second-year jump that we've seen so many of these NBA players take. And if he does that, then they go from, this is a lottery team with a pretty bright future because they have the best prospect in the NBA to, oh shit, we have to play the Spurs in the first round, and I don't want to see that guy. And I think that's really what you're going for. We were joking before the podcast started that they're just going to tank again and try to get Cooper Flag. I think this is a team that wants to make the playoffs. This is like the drought that they're on is unprecedented in the history of their organization. So it's like, how many more years does Pop have left? He's not sitting around here trying to. Maybe he is. Maybe Pop's the kind of guy who's padding things for the future, but I don't think so.
He's padding it for Becky Hammon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the other thing we discussed. Becky Hammond's frozen envelope with Flag and Becky Hammond coming out of there. Any other teams that stood out to you, or should we get in the Team USA?
Let's go into Team USA.
Sweet. Interesting team here, Tyson. We'll talk about the Jaylen Brown here. I just want to kind of get your thoughts first, and we'll talk about Jaylen Brown being left off, but and kind of giving a preview. But what do you think about the team makeup? If you haven't looked up, we're not going to go through the whole roster, but there's stars here. Joel Embiid, this is for his debut as a Team USA member. Kevin Durant, he's got a calf injury. We're not sure if he's going to play, but to me on the paper, it looks like a well-constructed roster that things that players are weak at. There's other ancillary pieces who can step up in those roles. Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, you want to talk about being a little brittle on the front line, though? My goodness.
It's disgusting. Jokic is going to drop 65 points on these guys. USA silver medal. No, you're going to see a lot of pictures, I'm sure, over the next couple of months that are like them and then the 2012 team and then the 92 team. And it's like, which one of these guys would you take? This is not the best team in the history of United States basketball. This is the best team that you can construct, like in the world right now. They're going to win a gold medal. They're going to look good doing it. They're going to have fun. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the Jaylen Brown stuff because everybody and their mom knows that Kawhi Leonard drops out. Shocker. Nobody saw that coming. And then the Team USA picks up Derek White in his place instead of Jaylen Brown, who just won Eastern Conference Finals MVP and Finals MVP. Pretty good accolades to get passed over here. Brad, sometimes on team, like this is the problem that I have when, like, I love the TNT guys, but when they get up there and they talk bus drivers and bus riders, it doesn't work. Like the framework doesn't work for what an actual team looks like. Yeah, you need guys to drive the bus and you need guys to ride the bus, but you need a mechanic and you need the guy who's going to fix the seats and you need there's so many other things that you need. And I think this team, like Drew Holiday is an ultimate winner. This guy has gone from like a good player in the NBA to a probably first ballot Hall of Famer in the way that his career has kind of progressed to this point. Derek White is everybody's favorite teammate. You hear that a million times over. Tyrese Halliburton isn't going to need to shoot the ball because he's going to be able to throw lobs and pass the ball. Devin Booker plays winning basketball. Anthony Edwards plays winning basketball. It's a bunch of guys outside of the LeBron James and the Steph Currys and the guys who have won at a high level. We already know. If I'm not going to sit here and say, well, LeBron James fits really well with Steph Curry. No shit. Everybody in the world knows that. But the team that they're trotting out there, and it's not going to be a U5 go kind of deal, but there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of mechanics on this team, and I think that's really important when it comes to winning these things, because in the years that the United States has not won a gold medal, it has been 12 guys who wanted to drive the bus.
That's a good point. And, maybe that's part of the reason why Jaylen Brown wasn't included on the team. And Derek White, shooter, will do the dirty work. And I don't know. I'm trying to put it out. It's a hard argument to make. I don't know. For me, Jaylen Brown's got to be on this basketball team if Kawhi Leonard drops out. It makes no sense. Now, he said it's something to do with the Nike. Did you look into that? I only saw a little snippet on that.
But
Okay.
I know that
See if
Jaylen
I can
Brown
find
probably did because he took it wasn't like an instant reaction to the news, right? It was that Jaylen Brown probably did his research, waited, found out what he needed to find out before saying anything. So I'm more inclined to kind of listen to him than if he would have just responded immediately.
I'm trying to find this. And oh, here we go. Stephen A. Smith clapping back at Jaylen Brown. What's going on here?
Dude?
I can't find the original source story.
He is the biggest snub on the team, but like if you want to get mad, like you can get mad for Tyrese Maxey, you can get mad for Jalen Brunson, you can get mad for Kyrie Irving, who's like Mr. Olympics, right? Like you can get mad for a couple of guys. Jaylen Brown should have been on the team. Like he just won the most important award in the NBA. He just won, and so he should have been on the team. He's not going to pass the ball the way that they maybe that's the way they're going to spin it. Is he's going to be a black hole or something? I don't see it, but.
Okay, so this is what I found. So apparently Jaylen Brown has long-standing beef with Nike. And this apparently in 2022, when Nike founder Phil Knight says Kyrie Irving stepped over the line when he shared anti-Semitic film on Twitter. Now, Jaylen Brown says, since when did Nike care about ethics? I think that's a fair criticism.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to talk about all this stuff about Nike. Okay.
Not out of left field.
So that's 2022. Now, here's the most recent thing. So in the recent All-Star game, 2024 All-Star game, he didn't wear Nike. He wore two pairs from small manufacturers. So now he's taking a shot at Nike. Went on Twitter yesterday. We're recording this on July 11th. He went on July 10th and said, at Nike, this what we doing. So he thinks this is a direct thing because USA Basketball is sponsored by Nike or their apparel is all Nike. And Jaylen Brown thinks Nike and his long-standing beef with them has something to do with them getting spurned.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's probably a pretty solid conspiracy theory if you want to jump on one. That's better than most I see on the internet these days. So good for Jaylen Brown. But it's just another kind of example of that dude can't, even when he wins, Jaylen Brown like loses. Like he doesn't lose, but he gets shitted on for like no reason. Every time anything's gone bad with Boston in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been Jaylen Brown's fault. He overcomes all of that just for the United States Olympics team to look at him, turn their noses up, and walk away.
Now Grant Hill, so he's the I don't have his official title, but basically he's a general manager of USA Basketball. So he's involved in putting this together. Now Grant Hill responded to this. He said, "No, it's not anything to do with Nike. I can't believe this is actually a topic here. But for a good portion of my career, I wore Fila." He said that was supposed to be a joke, and he's saying this at a presser. We're proud of our partners. Obviously, this move was about putting together a team. All right, so however they're trying to spin it.
Also, like unquestionably one of the better players at his position in the NBA at the time he was playing, and when he was in college and on all those select teams. It's not necessarily the same thing. Grant Hill wasn't competing with LeBron James, Kevin Durant. Like, come on, Grant.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So we'll see how this Team USA does. Maybe he gets put on if Kevin Durant's not able to go, though, Tyson. If his calf injury prevents him from playing. At this point, you got to
say no, right?
You would have to, right? If you're Jaylen Brown.
Yes, now.
And are the rosters finalized though? Even can they even if Kevin Durant hurts, like gets hurt, is this their roster?
I don't know. I'm not sure how the whole FIBA and everything like that plays into this, but
I don't either.
Whether Jaylen Brown's on the team or not, if this team doesn't win the gold medal, we're rioting in the streets.
Yeah, it's because here's what we do know. They're in Group C with Serbia, South Sudan, and Puerto Rico. Group A, Australia, Greece, Canada, Spain. Group B, France, Germany, Japan, and Brazil. This has to be a gold medal, and obviously for the United States team, they're minus 550 to win it on FanDuel. I mean, they have to. They just eviscerated Canada, who's probably the second best team in this
tournament. And has the most other NBA players on the roster.
So it's going to be an utter failure if it doesn't happen. Now, Tyson, I will say I am nervous. Puerto Rico's in the group. In 2004, Puerto Rico shocked the world. Does that happen here? We'll see. But no, this has to be a win for the United States for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully they look good doing it. I want 30-point blowouts. I want elbows. I want an international incident. That's what I want.
You want Charles Barkley to come out of retirement?
Yeah, something like that. I need. Let's go get DeMarcus Cousins. What's he up to? Get Draymond out here.
Oh, there we go. Let's get
Draymond's going to prison in Sudan if he's on this team.
So we'll wrap up here. So the betting line for United States and Serbia, that's the first game that's going to take place on July 28th. The United States are 12.5-point favorites. And you're like, Serbia, what? That's what I did. And then Tyson and I looked up the roster. Now, you may know that Nikola Jokic is part of that team. A couple other NBA players are also on the team. Bojan Bogdanovic, Alex Pokashevsky. 12.5. It feels like the United States should be able to cover that. I mean, it's a talented team, but we also said this, Tyson, is there anything that Nikola Jokic want to do more than destroy the United States of America on the Olympic stage?
So that's what you said. And I answered, yes, go home. And that's like, I think that there's a 50-50 shot that he's going to try to kill everybody. He is the best player in the world. If I had to put my money on one international guy to lead his team to a medal, here just on sheer will, it would be Giannis. I think that would be a more fun story. Also, he has less NBA players around him on his team, so it would be a little bit more impressive maybe. But yeah, I've seen Jokic give both Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid 40. And so I don't think he's worried about the front line like the way Puerto Rico might be.
Well, I'm going to keep monitoring these lines, Tyson. I want to know if there's going to be any movement when other stuff gets released. I mean, we still got a little over 2 weeks. Let's see, 17 days. We're recording on the 11th. Yeah, July 28th is when this tips. So a week or 2 weeks and a half until we get there. So more stuff will come out. We're going to be firing up. Tyson, where can they find our stuff throughout the summer?
It'll be on the Discord, Brad. Is that correct? Yes.
That's correct.
I said what I said on Discord. Is that right too?
That's right. Yeah.
Look at me go. I got it all down. Yeah, just hop in there. If you know how Discord works, it's free. If you know how Discord works, tell me and Brad, because we would love to know all of the things about this that we don't. But it'll just be a little bit more interactive. Give us a chance like to hop into like voice calls or voice chats or anything like that. And as we kind of get ready here, we say it all the time on this show, but the time to make your money in the NFL and college football is coming up. Like it's not week to week the same way that you can play baseball at any time of the year and you're going to get a different result. If you can hit these things, these win totals, these touchdown props, these yards props, things like that before the season starts, you're going to end up making more money and you're going to end up having a better time because you're going to make more money while you're watching football. So hop in that Discord because we're about to get it ripping.
And in the meantime, stay connected with us, like, subscribe, and share the show. Smash the like button on the way out if you're watching on YouTube. If you want to leave us a 5-star, if you're listening on podcast form, that's greatly appreciated. If you haven't done that already, we're going to have stuff coming out. That's why we want you to stay subscribed. Like, it's not just for our benefits. We want you to have some fun with us as we're going through getting ready for football. That's basically where we're getting to, and we're excited for it. We think it's going to be another fun season. We got a ton of stuff planned, so share it with your buddies if you haven't already. Let's start building this thing out, and we're looking forward to it. So Tyson and I are going to be back. We're talking the EA Sports college football video game. We can't wait for it. We know everybody's excited for it as well. So we're going to be going through that in our next episode. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. And we'll talk to you then, guys. Peace.